Uh, wait, hold on, wait. I'm trying to send this to you guys. All right. Welcome back to the Double MC podcast. It's been 2 years. I'd like to say,
Yeah,
and my partners here could correct me.
You've been
This
busy,
is still
dog.
your boy CV.
I'm Mario. What's up, guys?
and this is Mike.
All right. So we're gonna start off with news for the day. Mike, I think, has that.
Yeah, here we go. I got some top headlines for you guys. The MLB shortened season if no labor deal is reached by this Monday. What do you think about that?
Uh,
The season's not starting on
This
time.
this is bad for the for like everyday people who don't care
Yeah,
about baseball as it is. This is terrible for the game. Terrible.
yeah. Especially for the hardcore baseball nerds like myself, the actual geeks who watch spring
Yeah.
training, watch every
Yeah.
game.
Yep.
Tough scenes.
Yep.
All right,
Yep.
let's move on to the next
Agree.
one here.
Agree.
All right, Kemba, he's gonna sit for the rest of the year. Is it a failure in New York or
Yeah,
what?
that's come full circle and half of a circle. I think it's sad to see him. He always wanted to be a New York Knick. It wasn't a secret. But now you kind of see him on the bench holding Derrick Rose's jock.
I mean, that whole situation is just like the perfect like description of what the Knicks have been over the last like pretty much my whole fucking life. Like
Well,
that's exactly what the Knicks are.
the Knicks have been in a downward spiral since Patrick Ewing left. Let's just get that
Yeah.
straight.
Yeah.
And
It's more of the
and
same, dude.
the decline of Kemba really started in Boston, did not?
Yeah, I think you're speaking
Towards
from a
towards the end of
biased
his
Boston standpoint,
Bro,
but
well,
you
yeah.
can't say that when you campaigned. You said the guy was a better fit for Boston than Kyrie was.
Playmaker
Okay,
than
so nah,
yeah,
yeah, I'm not having it.
yeah, yeah,
all right, okay, let's move on.
yeah.
All right,
Last one,
uh,
I guess.
Packers GM, he says he never promised to trade Aaron Rodgers.
Gunter Well, he
Hmm.
didn't, but like it
Yeah.
was a whole.
Fair
It was
play.
like Aaron had said that it was
Why
like
should
in
he?
good faith or whatever.
Hmm.
Only thing I have to
Aaron,
say about it, it would be in his best interest to trade Aaron
he's
Rodgers.
not gone.
That's it.
No, he's not gone.
That's my take.
He's gonna stay.
That's my
But
take.
we'll get into that later.
Yes, yes, we have a lot to uncover
Yeah.
here. First, we're actually going to start off with we're going to stay in the NFL. We're going to focus on free agency, and Mario has a take on free agency and its impact on the draft. Mario, did you care to comment
Yeah.
on it?
So for so long, right? You hear about teams, tank priority, and that you always want to give yourself the best chance to rebuild through the draft. Over the last couple of years, we've seen, especially like this year with the Rams and the year before that with the Bucks, free agency is really a lot of teams' new approach to rebuilding a team. Like the Buccaneers a couple of years ago were only relevant because Jameis Winston threw as many interceptions as he threw touchdowns in the season, which is nuts. And now they won a Super Bowl, which they hadn't done in over 10 years. And the only reason was because one dude decided to go there, and they went all in. And the same thing with the Rams. They got Matthew
Yeah.
Stafford, they got OBJ, they got Von Miller, they got all these players to free agency, and you see the GM going to the Super Bowl parade and wearing a F them picks shirt.
Well, to be fair, I mean the Rams
So, like, that
built their team off trading
yeah,
players,
Pay to
trading their
win.
assets.
yes,
Pay to win.
yes. And that's what I'm saying is that supposedly the cap is supposed to prevent stuff like this from happening. It's supposed to prevent like quote unquote super teams in the NFL. But like now with like the amount of cap gymnastics that teams do, where they just like have all these like backloaded contracts, where they can just certain players in bonuses and kick all the actual salary to the back end. None of it matters
Mhm.
anymore. And it's like, should teams even care anymore about the draft? Like, does it even matter?
Well, I think you should care about your first 3 rounds. After that, you're pretty much hoping for crapshoots, anything later than the 4th round, right? You're just
Yeah.
looking for that diamond in the rough. Besides that,
Mhm.
because once the from first to 3rd round talent's gone, those are the dudes who are actually gonna make the roster and potentially play. Anybody other than after a 4th round pick, they're practice squad dudes, they're special teamers, they're just literally emergency case players, right? I mean, it's unfortunate for them, but I don't know. I think there might need to be some sort of restructuring of how the cap system works in the NFL
Yeah.
because of the way teams can distribute money and pay players later rather than have that count towards their season cap is it's a loophole and it's
Yeah.
being exploited at this moment.
Yeah.
I agree. I agree. I think in the long term though, and this is where I don't think free agency is going to completely kill values of picks in the draft. Um, you have these players that for years, part of the player association that have been fighting for these guaranteed contracts, have
Hmm.
been fighting for like guaranteed money because football's the most aggressive, dangerous sport that we have. I mean, outside
The
of,
average NFL career is three
hockey and
seasons.
Yeah, that's nuts.
yes, exactly. So, you take free agency into account and situations like um, Odell forcing his way out of Cleveland. You have Deshaun currently trying to force his way out of Houston, although that's a different topic for
Yeah.
a different day. But I feel like that's going to get taken into account next time that this is a problem that's becoming, addressed because, why are these owners going to give these players that are forcing their way out after signing a guaranteed deal worth $150 million and they don't want to play for that team the next year? These owners don't want to guarantee money to anybody
Yeah.
at that point. So in a sense, the players have taken 5 steps forward with, getting their guaranteed money,
Yeah.
but these players, the Le'Veon Bells, the Odells of the world, the
Uh,
Antonio Browns of the world, are ruining that progress and making it 6 steps back.
no,
Yeah.
I agree with you.
And we see it even more now with it came out that all these players and all these players' agents are gonna boycott the combine because like they have unrealistic standards.
Hmm.
And like there was that story like a few years ago of this one guy who wasn't a particularly great football player, but he just trained pretty much all year specifically what he sets for in the combine.
Yeah,
And he
the specific
yeah,
combine events. Yeah.
and he was actually drafted way higher than he was projected just because players aren't numbers on a sheet. Like you can't tell what's in behind, what's in between someone's ears based on their 40 number or how much they bench.
Yeah.
And that's what I think the draft's been faulty for a long time, and you see teams now kind of deciding, well, we've tried doing things as the certain. Why don't we just go and get Tom Brady, get Rob Gronkowski, get him, basically everything he
So
wants, so that we can
do
win.
you think that the draft, I mean, excuse me, the combine should be more geared towards like an interview process, a game knowledge process? Like I know they have a section for that where the team get to interview the players and
Uh-huh.
whatnot. We think it should be more geared toward that, like showing players different film and have it kind of picking their brain as opposed to their physical attributes with all these events that they have run.
Kind of behind the door stuff,
Yeah.
kind of stuff you wouldn't really
Uh-huh.
see on the.
Like a
Yeah, yeah.
Gruden
I think.
QB camp, but for every single
Yeah, I
team.
think, and actually, it's funny you bring that up because I was going to reference that. I think I've seen more like some of the best I mean, not best, most pro-ready quarterbacks. Derek Carr, Andrew Luck, for a stint there, Blake Bortles. They went into that film session knowing their stuff. You could
Yeah.
tell that they are going to be the smartest player on the field at all times. Um, with combines and stuff, we've seen. I mean, who hasn't seen Tom Brady's 40-yard dash?
Yeah.
Like it doesn't really give a accurate estimate of where that player is going to be amongst his peers.
Hmm. Brady Quinn. Let's think of Brady Quinn for a second. This guy was the best thing since sliced bread coming out of Notre Dame. Was projected to be the end all be all of the NFL, but he just couldn't put it together on the field because he couldn't read coverages. He didn't have the game knowledge that he needed, but he had all the physical attributes to be that guy, but they could just never instill those game knowledge values into him in real time. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know.
I,
Yeah.
I think the combine is fine. I think the way that the draft works is fine. I just don't think that front offices should be putting as much of an emphasis as they do on it. So like when they have their draft board, right? You know, let's say 60 to 65% of whether or not you're going to take a player of your player evaluation is based on the combine. I think that it should be the other way around. I think that it should be 60 to 65% based on what you guys are talking about, the one-on-ones, the personal relationships, talking to the guy's former teammates, his former coaches, seeing what he's like behind closed doors. And then, you base the other one because obviously you do need numbers to play in the NFL. But I don't think that there
Mhm.
should be that much importance on the combine. Because if we're being honest, I mean, these guys at the combine, they're splitting hairs between each other, man. Like,
Yeah.
if you're good enough to get to that point, you're gonna put down a good 40. You're gonna put down a good bench. You're gonna put down a good vertical. That's just the nature of it. So you can't base that much just on 5 minutes that you get seeing a player run across the field or throw a couple of deep balls. You can't. I just think that too much importance is placed on it. I don't have a problem with the comment. I just think that front office is placed way too much importance, and sometimes they let analytics get using your eyes tell you, which is like, oh, this guy, is obviously better than the next one. Hey, the other guy is better 40, so we're gonna take that guy.
No, yeah, I agree with it.
Yeah. Yeah. So kind of shifting, kind of pivoting here. We're gonna we're gonna stay in the NFL world. Um, so everyone saw this last year of playoffs. We saw the incredible divisional round that's probably gonna go down for the next 10, 20 years as the greatest weekend in NFL history.
Yep.
One team that didn't make it past the round was Green Bay Packers. As you know, as Mike alluded to earlier,
Yeah.
he might be on the chopping block. He might not be on the chopping block. No one really kind of knows the ins and outs of that situation at the time. I don't even think Aaron Rodgers knows the ins and outs of it. Um, so let's say hypothetically here he is traded or he stays. What's it going to take for Aaron Rodgers to solidify his legacy as one of the greatest quarterbacks in our game?
You want to say another Super Bowl? And this might be a biased opinion because I'm a Bears fan, but I think I mean, let's just be honest. He's done a lot. Multiple time MVP. He's got the Super Bowl championship. I don't know what more he has to prove to the fans, the organization, to prove what a hell of a quarterback he is. Let's just be honest. I'm not sure he has anything more to do to solidify his legacy as one of the all-time greats. I mean, another Super Bowl would be nice. What situation could he go to potentially win himself another Super Bowl? Because he is at the tail end of his career. I don't know. I don't know if he could do it with Green Bay. I don't know what team might have a vacancy, a quarterback that he could go in, slot in, and fill that need to make them a Super Bowl contender. I don't know if that's Denver. I don't know if that's in Pittsburgh. He's in a weird spot in his career. He doesn't like the Packers. Wants to leave. Has been asking to leave. But if he leaves, I don't know if he could go to a situation that's better than Green Bay right now. Honestly. What do you guys
I
think
don't
about
know,
that?
man. Well, it's just like, okay, my whole thing is like, right now you can say that, right? Because we saw him play, we lived through it, we understand who he is and what he brought to the game. But you're talking like 20 years, you're talking like 30 years, and all people are going to see is the stat sheet, the accomplishments,
Yeah, it's true.
right? And then with one Super Bowl win, right next to Drew Brees with one Super Bowl win, and then you have Peyton and Eli that have 2 each, and you have Brady with 7, who are going to be the upper echelon guys. And I think that, all the stuff that he does in the regular season, that's great and all, but, you know, even in 5 years, people aren't going to remember what he did this regular season. People aren't going to remember that he won back-to-back MVP. And for those who do, the argument against will always be, well, he only had 1 ring. And to me,
Yeah.
this year was the most complete team that Aaron has had, like, for a while. The defense was pretty solid this year in Green Bay. He had all the weapons. You have the tandem of Aaron Jones and
I think his offensive
the
line
backup.
with Bakhtiari being out for a majority of the
Yeah.
season hurt him.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was bad. And he has his best friend Devontae, and he got Randall Cobb back, and he has MBS. So I think that this year was like his best year, and offensively they're putting up all these numbers, and then you go to the NFC Chip, and or the divisional, and you only put up, what was it, like 10 points? How many points did they put up in the divisional? They put up a very small amount of points.
To their credit,
Yeah.
it was snowing like hell. It was probably hard to throw the ball. It's freezing,
It was ice on the floor.
Yeah, I don't want to make excuses for the guy being a Bears fan, but
Yeah. Yeah. But honestly, and this might be a very, hot take, but I think if he needs to be traded anywhere to finally get that chip, I think it's San Francisco. I
Yeah.
mean, you look what San Francisco's at. where they were with Jimmy Garoppolo. No, and Mike and Mario can tell you, I'm the biggest Jimmy Garoppolo fan out there. I think he gets a lot of flack for no reason. I think he's criminally underrated, but he does make some bad passes every now and then.
Mhm.
But I think you throw together a package of Trey Lance and maybe
I
one
don't
late round
see the
pick for Aaron
49ers.
Rodgers.
I don't see the 49ers giving up Trey Lance. I
No.
can't.
Well, this is why I say they trade Trey Lance, because they gave up all that draft capital to get Trey Lance, right? You trade for Aaron Rodgers, you keep your first round pick in the low to high 20s, right? So really that first round pick's not going to affect you since you traded it away. Trey Lance has time in Green Bay because you can see that team is very young and very talented nonetheless. Um, outside of Mercedes Lewis, who is still playing somehow, and I think the trade works out for both sides. Green Bay gets a future young stud that was a top 3 pick.
Do you
San
think?
Francisco can keep their continuity of a win now team
Uh-huh.
because that team is built to win right now,
Do you
not to
think
develop
Green
Trey Lance.
Bay
So
has their doubts with Love?
Oh yeah.
You think?
I
Do you
think
think
I
they
think there's
see him as the heir
speculation, but
as the heir apparent to Aaron Rodgers? Do you think he can actually be that
I
guy?
I
I
see him
don't.
as a bridge quarterback. I see him as a Brian Hoyer. I see him as somebody, if they were to get a young quarterback that could kind of keep the ship steady for a few years. Nobody will really want his head, and because let's face it, Jordan Love has. We've seen Jordan Love. It's a small sample size, but that small sample size has not been good
Yeah.
I
at all.
I think that in the NFL, especially for these, these billionaire owners and these GMs, it's like impossible for these guys to admit that they're ever wrong. Like they'll go to their grave defending whoever they picked or whoever they signed, and they're never
No,
gonna
hundred
admit
percent.
that drafting Love was probably the biggest mistake that the Packers have made in a while, like in a long time. That was bad. Like you're
I
one
agree.
game away from the Super Bowl, and you draft a quarterback in the first round. Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Any other organization, that would be a laughing stock. But just because it's the Packers and they have the logo and they're in Green Bay, they're this historic team, nobody really talks about it as much as they should. But that was genuinely a really bad call.
I
I
don't
think
know.
that entire division's in a spot where it's the entirety of it is young developing
Yeah,
talent. And
Well,
I think if Green Bay wants to
except the
not be
Vikings.
behind the 8 ball, well, I
no,
mean,
the Vikings have
Kirk
like Justin
stays. That's if Kirk
Jefferson and
stays.
Kirk is like
Yeah.
decent. They have some young pieces. I think that I do get what you're saying, Chris. But like it feels like for the Packers, it's now or never. And I thought that it's been now or
Yeah.
never for the last couple of years. Whereas because the Bears, they have a new coach, they have a new GM, they have Justin Fields, like they're on the come up. And obviously the Vikings have Justin Jefferson, one of the most electric wide receivers in the league. So
Dalvin
like
Cook.
yeah, and Dalvin Cook. I
Yeah.
just think
Yeah.
that
Both
for the
recovering from
Packers,
injury.
it's genuinely definitely, if it wasn't last year, it's now or never. And I'm glad that they're doing everything they can to retain Aaron, because if they don't, that would be the second biggest mistake they've done in the last couple of
He's
years, other than drafting Love.
he's not a free agent this year, right? He has to be traded if he wants to leave.
He has to be. But
Okay.
Gunter,
Yeah, but his money is movable
supposedly
this
the
year.
GM had told him, because I watched Pat McAfee redo the Aaron's on, and he had said earlier in the year that he had it in good faith. It was one of those where like it's in good faith because of everything you've done for this team. If you really want to be traded, we'll move you.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
we saw how the
Yeah.
Brett Favre situation went with the same organization, where he was basically
Yeah.
forced to retire so that he could play for the Vikings.
Exactly.
So who
Exactly.
knows?
And yeah, and when you say now or never, just to be clear, it's now or never to win and send Aaron off to the sunset,
Yeah,
Well,
not
yeah.
how
To
now
do
or
long
what
never
Peyton did.
to restart this rebuild.
how long do you think Rodgers has left realistically? 3
I mean, the guy
years?
just won
3
back-to-back
years,
4
about
years?
3
MVPs,
years.
man. I don't know.
Well,
But
Tom
you know
Brady
what?
could have
After
easily
what
been the
Brady's
MVP
done,
this year.
yeah,
So I don't know.
That's
And
true. It
Tom
becomes
Brady
a
could have been
question
the MVP
of
and he
when is
retired.
he
So
done
I
with
don't
it.
know.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's so much not so much of a physical thing. It's more of a mental
yeah.
thing. Does he still have a
Either he's
love for the
still in it.
game?
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. All right. Now we're gonna shift to the NBA. There's one of the biggest trades in the last decade. James Harden moved to Philadelphia. Him and Paul Millsap. I'm sorry, for Ben Simmons, Andre Drummond, and Seth Curry to the Brooklyn Nets. How did the trade pan out for you guys in y'all's opinion, and who won the trade here?
Well, I think we gotta give it some
I don't
time.
know, man. Yeah.
We gotta give it some time first, but you're inclined to say Philadelphia, aren't you? Because Ben Simmons is a serial choker in the playoffs, isn't he? He
Yeah.
can't make free throws.
I-
He can't shoot the ball. What does he bring to a team? He's got attitude problems on and off the court. I don't know what Ben Simmons really brings to a team, honestly, besides being in the low post and scoring underneath the basket. I don't. I feel like Ben Simmons could be such an amazing player in this NBA, the way he has all these physical gifts, but he just doesn't put them to use. I feel like he doesn't have the work ethic to be a number one player on a number one team.
I think that the problem goes like is like a lot bigger than just Ben. Like real quick, just because the NBA is a star league. Like they're completely dependent on their stars, and like that's the one league I think in the entire world where the players completely dictate the narrative and where they want to go.
Well, yeah, because one player
They
can change
choose every like
the
it's
team
it's
dynamic.
100% a player-driven league, and I think
Yeah.
that the whole Ben Simmons thing where he forced his way out is just a consequence of that. And like you were saying, Mike, this guy, I mean, he's proven time and time again that when the chips are down, he's not that guy. You know, he's really not.
I don't think he is.
No. And you want to talk about adding him to Kyrie, who's there half the time, and Durant, who's like now is showing a lot more durability issues than he was before. I don't know, man. The whole Brooklyn experiment might be one of the biggest, super team busts that we have seen in the NBA. That's pretty bad.
Wow.
Yeah, honestly, like that's pretty bad.
I think, and okay, so let me start this by saying I am a Rockets fan. I have watched James Harden the last 9 years of my life, and he's right now he's my favorite basketball player by far. I just liked how he carried himself along down here in Houston. Little did we know what was really going on after the stories came out.
Yeah.
But I genuinely believe that Brooklyn comes out a better team than Philly in this case.
Ooh.
Why?
Okay.
I've seen James Harden play in the playoffs, and he's great offensively. He averages 25, 6, and 4, right? That's pretty solid. That's pretty solid points from your star player,
Yeah.
especially in critical moments in the game. However, on the defensive side of the ball, he can tend to be a liability.
Yeah.
Now, not to say that Ben Simmons was in
Was the best
any
defensive
shape or
player.
form. Yeah, not the best, but he puts in effort. If you look at the Eastern Conference, the best players in the Eastern Conference aren't necessarily bigs, but wings. Now, it depends on how you see Giannis, I guess. But you look at your Chicago Bulls, your Miami Heat, your Cleveland Cavaliers, who are scary good this year. If you think about it, if you're an Eastern Conference team, I'm sorry, you Celtics fans, you Bulls fans out there, you don't want to face the Cavs in the playoffs. So this becomes a liability for Philly because you look at their wing defenders. You have a young, developing Tyrese Maxey, right? I might butcher his name completely. Thibault.
Oh yeah.
He's one of the best wing defenders in the league. Period. But on the other side of it, each of these teams have what in common? Multiple star players that can score from the outside. You need James Harden to step up in big moments. I don't necessarily believe he is that guy to shut down one of your best offensive players on the outside. I think Brooklyn, you get Seth Curry, not the best defender by any means, but there's the effort. You have Ben Simmons, who's going to be guarding inside and outside. So your Giannis's, your Vucevic's, Jaylen Brown's driving to the basket. And then in the end, you have KD. It's hard to guard against KD now. And now and to be fair, we have to see how KD comes back after injury. But I don't see anyone in Philadelphia being able to step up the way that Thibault will be able to. And you need, as we know, defense is what wins championships. You need more than one primary ball defender.
Mm-hmm. I also have my reservations about Harden as well, because when he went to Houston, right? Very energetic, loved the city, loved the team, loved playing there, right? Okay,
Yep.
Gets into a little slump, gets down on himself, whatever. Moves to Brooklyn. He's all of a sudden on a high again, down for the team, down for the organization, whatever, right? Gets down on himself, traded. Now he's in Philadelphia and he's back on his high. I don't know if he's gonna be able to sustain that because the past
At
two
32 years old.
yeah, the past two teams he's been on, he's had that high, but then severely dropped off towards the end of his tenure with that organization. So I don't know. I feel like for James specifically, it might be a good thing that he's traded midseason because that highs to right into the playoffs of a new environment. But I feel like if this trade had happened like in the offseason, like let's say Harden had stayed with the Nets and then he transitioned over to a new team in the offseason, that he would have been on that high. Let's say the same exact trade happened in the offseason, he would have been on that high, but we would have seen him declining towards the end of the season.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. He has a tendency to kind of get caught up in the glory and in a new relationship, that honeymoon phase. He plays well. I'm expecting when he debuts for Philly on, what is it, Friday, he'll probably drop a solid 30, 32 maybe. You'll see a couple good weeks out of him. He'll sit out, rest a game. And then the playoffs come, and right now they're seeded to go up against, let's see, 3 seed against the Boston Celtics. And I don't know if I would take Philly in this, honestly. I think the Celtics are about to. They've just started hitting their stride. I genuinely believe that Boston takes them in 6, just because of that defensive presence, that you have your 2 young wings, and then the Celtics have one of the best benches in the NBA. Well, one of the deepest benches in the NBA that they can turn to, and that's not something I think, except for maybe the Heat, an Eastern Conference team can say. And the Bulls when healthy, but they're not healthy right now.
No,
Yeah.
So there's that.
the Bulls aren't. I mean, obviously, the Bulls have been waiting for the Bulls to be good for the last 22 years of my life, and the Bulls aren't. When they play a good team, I think that their record is like 0-5 when playing at like the top 4 teams in the East. So even if you're unhealthy or whatever, you're not always going to be healthy in the playoffs. Nah, I don't put much faith in the Bulls. I really don't. And back to the whole James Harden thing, and that's what I was saying. That's what I was saying earlier. Is that's what happens when you let your superstars dictate the league. Is that this guy like literally gets what he wants, and it hasn't worked out for him anywhere yet. And it's just sad because he's such a talent. Like he's genuinely one of the best offensive players we've ever seen. He's one of the most complete players we've ever seen in terms of creating your own shot and being able to knock threes down and driving to the basket. And his size is just, I think he's one of the best players. And it's honestly, it's a shame that he might end his career without a ring, just because he kind of let his ego get in the way a lot.
Yeah, speaking of players not finishing their career with a ring, what about Russell Westbrook, fellas? What are we thinking on that?
You're reading my
right
mind
now?
there, Chris.
He's I think we all were able to live through the Russell Westbrook years. The what was it, 2010,
his golden
2013, his golden age. Oh my gosh, like it was terrifying to think you were facing Russell Westbrook the next day, because he was coming for you every single night.
He's gonna drop a
Like
triple
every single
double on
night. Instantly. But like even then, back then he had a jump shot before Patrick Beverley went after his knees. But like he and that's a tragic story in of itself. And he's dealt with it how he's been able to. But man, Russell Westbrook, what, talk about dropping off of a cliff.
Yeah.
He's scared to shoot. He's visibly terrified to let go of the ball beyond 10 feet from the basket.
Well, I feel like that wasn't his game to begin with, though. He was more of a slashing guard, a driving guard.
Exactly.
Guys who can get to the basket, get it fouled, shoot your free throws. That was more of his game. I feel like he's had to adapt to not his style of play being in Los Angeles, because LeBron feels that role, right? Where he's the one who's taking the ball to the basket the majority of the time, or he has to, or now Westbrook's role is to feed AD, right? He's had to take a kind of a backseat to the player that he was. I don't think he was a good fit for that team to begin with, but he wasn't sure it wasn't a bad addition. But I don't know. Sometimes you need to take a player of maybe like a less gifted player to have the team flow better, right? You can't just load a team with superstars and throw them on the court and expect them to play, right? He wasn't the right player for that Lakers team, and I think now they're finally realizing that maybe some of these other options that they had at guard were the right ones, and that trying to go out and just get a marquee brand superstar wasn't their best option.
Yeah, and honestly, we heard that after the trade deadline when they were supposed to trade for John Wall and Christian Wood, and they said no, they didn't want to take on that much salary.
But you think,
And I
but
think
do you
I
think John Wall would have been a better option than Russell Westbrook?
no, but I think he would have been more efficient. I think John Wall, after watching John Wall for a year down here, he knows his strengths and his weaknesses. But the thing that differs between Russell Westbrook, and again, I watched Russell Westbrook for 1 year on my Rockets, and then I watched John Wall, so I was able to tell like a distinct difference between the two. Russell Westbrook drives and tries to create something on the fly. John Wall knows exactly what he's gonna do before he even crosses half
Calculated.
court. A lot more calculated than Russell Westbrook. Russell Westbrook is extremely reckless. And
So
it's fine. It works in some scenarios, like when there's chaos, he's able to kind of, weather the storm just because he's used to that. But John Wall on this Lakers team, you cannot tell me that that team doesn't flow better
so do you
with a
think
little bit more.
do you think this could be also a coaching problem? You know, the coaching.
No,
You don't think so?
I don't believe so.
Because
I
I
think
think
you hit the nail on the head earlier, Mike, when you were talking about whether or not Russ was a fit from there to begin with. Because I think in the NBA right now, everyone's so concerned with having the names. Right? You want the big names on your team. You want the big threes, the big four, whatever the
hey,
case may be.
especially in a giant market like LA.
Exactly. So, but I think what you hit the nail on the head earlier with what you said, which was that wouldn't you rather have a player that better fits your system rather than a guy who was honestly, it's like it sucks to say, but kind of coasting by on his name and what he had done previously. And that's exactly what happened with the Lakers and Russ, because from the beginning he was not a good fit in LA because he's the type of player who needs the ball at his hands at all times. And obviously that style's
Well-
going to clash with LeBron. And you see, like last year when the Bucks won the championship, it
Sometimes you need a Rajon Rondo.
Yes, exactly. And like last year, the Bucks had Giannis, yes, but a lot of the times it was Chris Middleton hitting the big shot, or it was Brook Lopez getting like a big rebound, or Drew Holiday, hitting, making a play. It's always like the guys who you least expect who are gonna get you out of the bind.
John
And
Paxton.
Yeah.
and I don't think Russ was that guy. I think that was a big mistake on their part, and I think that LeBron also, we saw that he went on Twitter who was like, keep the same energy when you talk about my team, and
Deleted that tweet. by the
yeah,
way.
because I think that not only him but the whole, front office of the Lakers were really like, this is gonna work. We did it and it's gonna work, and they kind of they refused to prove when they're wrong or to just admit when they're wrong, and I think they got it really wrong this time. I really do.
You think if
I
Magic
agree,
was
I
still around calling shots, this team would be in a better place?
No, I think it would be worse. I think he'd be listening to LeBron because personally, I feel LeBron is the reason why they're in this situation because Pelinka had the Kings on the line ready to pull the trigger on Buddy Hield, and
Mhm.
LeBron stopped him
The
and said, "Nope,
GM.
give me Russell Westbrook." So I think Magic Johnson was a pushover. It wasn't a secret. Everyone knew that. Um,
He's a temper
but
apparently too.
yeah, Tamper. I mean, I guess he got them AD in a way, but I don't know. But last thoughts on this segment, and then we can move on to our hot takes of the evening.
If the Lakers don't make the playoffs, I wouldn't be as shocked as most people, honestly.
I agree with that one. That's mine.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think so. All right, so now that we're done with the main segment, we're going to move on to our next segment, which is eventually we want to hear from you guys. We want you guys to leave your comments down below, ask us questions about, whatever it is you want to hear about, whether it's, basketball, football, baseball, heck, even soccer, F1, whatever you guys want to hear about. Leave us a comment down
NASCAR.
below.
We're still NASCAR out
for
there,
Chris. And we will definitely be reacting to your guys' takes and seeing what you guys think. All right, so we're going to play hot or not really quick. Just rattle it off real
All
quick.
right.
A few thoughts.
Here we go.
Whether or not you guys think this is a hot or cold take. So number one, we're biased, yes. But is Texas Tech a Final Four team?
Hot.
Yeah, it's hot.
no.
Okay.
Flaming hot.
I'm gonna say not.
Surface
Okay.
of the sun hot.
I'm gonna be devil's advocate in case y'all haven't picked that up. I'm devil's
Come on.
advocate. The only reason why I say not is that man, I really feel the way we've been playing this year. We're gonna get thrown to Gonzaga's bracket, and man, Gonzaga is it this year.
No,
I
come
think I
on.
think I think Gonzaga is that team
They
this
play
year.
in the
I've
West
never
Coast
seen like a
Conference.
more
They
That's
play
the
in the
thing,
West
yeah.
Coast Conference, Chris. Texas
yeah,
Tech
but
is in
they've
the
been
Big
playing the
12.
West Coast Conference.
Texas Tech is in the Big 12. The Big 12 has never been more competitive, bro. There's every game in the Big 12 is a grueling grinder of a game, and that
I
game,
agree with you. I
like that
agree
game that Texas Tech had
wholeheartedly.
against Oklahoma last night, excuse me, that shows something, man. That these guys are killers. That
I agree. I
they
agree.
they struggled that first half big time. They came out firing that second half, just straight killers. I got a good
The
feeling about
only
this team.
reason why, yeah, I do too. But the only reason why I say not, maybe not, is that this team, and it has always been the case, even back when he who shall not be named was coaching this team, we had cold streaks that came at the worst possible times that would screw our team. Now, this team has better offensive efficiency. You can look at the stats. This team is shooting way better from behind the arc than any of the teams in the past 5 years. But
I'll be the one to say it. I think this team is better than the team that went to the championship game.
You do?
wow,
I don't think so. That's
wow,
why I
I
said no to
disagree with
this.
that
I
one.
disagree
I
too.
I
disagree
do.
with that one. I
Is that a
disagree.
hot take? I think it's true.
Yeah,
That's a very hot
I
take. That's
disagree with
flaming
that.
hot.
I really do.
That's
And only
flaming
because
hot.
recently I watched like the whole,
I,
all the highlights of that Final Four run. And the one thing that this team doesn't have is like a consistent like knockdown. Here's the ball, shoot a 3-shooter. And that team had a lot. It had like Matt Mooney, Brandon Francis.
no,
Obviously
That team was
Moretti.
that
I'll
team was an
Dude.
analytical
I'll tell you. I'll
dream.
tell you why I
Okay,
think. I'll tell you why I think this. And it's for one reason only. Our home court record. These guys don't lose at home, and I feel like I
March
think we're
Madness
gonna
doesn't take place in Lubbock.
hold on. The fans travel extremely well.
That
Do you
is
see
true.
that game in Austin?
Yeah.
Okay, I think we're gonna end up with the 2 seed Texas Tech, and those are gonna be 2 regional games. Those games are gonna be on fire with Tech fans, and then if we make the Sweet 16, the fans are gonna show up 100%.
That's one thing that I did notice going back and watching those old games is that, man, Minnesota, it was packed with red.
It was red.
It sounded
It was
like a
red.
home
It
game
was
every
red.
time
I'm
we
telling you,
scored.
man, these
It
fans
was
travel.
crazy.
Yeah,
That is
yeah.
We go back a winning
all right.
team.
So moving on to the next one
Agreed.
really quick before we get a little too sidetracked and talking about Tech basketball for another
Yeah.
30 minutes.
I'm ready for mine. Mine's gonna take a little bit.
Is Joe Burrow an average quarterback? Hot or cold?
Cold.
Really?
Cold. I'm gonna say cold on that one also.
Cold.
Okay.
He's above average quarterback easily.
Well, but
Recently,
well above.
since the Super Bowl, bro, the narrative has changed so much around him, and I do not get where it's coming from. I really
I don't either.
understand.
Wow, Texas came back. Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm watching this at the same time. Continue.
Yeah, but I don't know where this slander is coming from. I think Joe Burrow is like what we were talking about earlier, guys. Where when the chips are down, that you wouldn't.
Barring
have-
injury,
Honestly.
No, yeah, that's a busted. This kid showed me something,
Yeah.
man. He came off
Yeah.
a big time bad injury to lead his team to the Super Bowl. No, this kid did this different gravy.
he played with an injury.
The Bengals. No,
and he
no,
played
no.
with an injury.
The Bengals.
With the Bengals. I mean, come
They don't
on.
have an indoor
Yeah.
practice facility.
It's different
in Ohio.
gravy.
Come on.
Get
dude.
that
Yeah.
man an offensive line. I promise he's getting you wins.
They don't have an indoor
He's getting you
practice. They
rings.
don't have an indoor practice facility. Are you kidding me?
I'm sure they do
I
now.
saw for
I'm sure after that.
in their Super Bowl prep, right, for the they had to go to the university's indoor practice
Yeah.
facility
Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
they're practicing.
because it's snowing. You know,
Because that's
you
no
And that other Big 12 team now.
you kidding me?
Yeah, that's pretty
No,
nuts.
nah.
All
get,
right.
No, get that narrative out of here and no one hear it again. The guy's not an average Joe. He's not an average Joe.
Did you have one?
All right, this is the big one for the night, and I
Okay.
know you guys were ready for this.
Oh, no.
I know
Here we
you
go.
guys have very strong opinions on this.
Yeah.
Proven innocent, Deshaun Watson will not be traded and have a change of heart due to the fact that the Texans have hired Lovie Smith. Hot or cold?
Cold.
Cold, but only
Reason.
because I honestly, like, genuinely, I am so over Deshaun. Like, I am just over that whole situation.
Personally, or
Like,
as a
I just-
quarterback?
as a quarterback.
As
Just
a quarterback,
because I
yeah.
don't, it's, dude, you can't. We saw what Le'Veon looked like after he took a year off.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
nuts. And he's a quarterback.
I mean-
That's a position where there's no amount of practice that's going to simulate a live game rep as a quarterback.
But did you see Kurt Warner when he came back?
Oh, but this is
Yeah.
different,
Did
bro.
you see Carson Palmer when he came back?
I don't know. I just don't think that many quarterbacks.
The
can
damn
take
shame
Similar
both ended up
positions
in
there.
Arizona.
Yeah, both this exact same team, losing in the playoffs. How about that?
Yeah,
Look,
You
this,
know
is,
what-
this is what I think on Deshaun.
Go on.
I think proven innocent. I know this fan base down here despises him for sitting out a year. But then again, if you look back at any Texans game, I promise the max number of people you see in the stands may be a little bit under 2,000 fans in that big stadium.
No,
That
it
makes
can't
me
be
so
that
sad.
bad.
So
it's bad.
I
dude.
think
it's bad.
I think yeah, I'm not even lying.
No, it's bad.
It was pathetic.
Yeah.
But I think if proven innocent and Deshaun, there's rumors that Deshaun will come back. It would take a little bit. Deshaun would probably get some hate a little bit initially, but I know for a fact this fan base would welcome him with open arms because I know for a fact we have waited how many years? 2000. It would be 20 years exactly to start next year that
Oh,
we
yeah.
have been looking for a franchise quarterback.
Yeah, Matt Schaub.
And Deshaun was that guy.
Matt
Well,
Schaub.
let's not talk about Matt Schaub. We all knew Matt Schaub wasn't that guy.
He
but-
wasn't, but you know,
Deshaun was the guy that gave your team a chance. No matter how bad the team was, you had a chance to win any given Sunday. Now, if he gets traded, and barring, I need to re-emphasize, if proven innocent, if he's guilty, I'm a full believer.
well, if he's
Whatever
guilty,
needs
you
to
know,
happen needs to. Yeah, it's
that's
over.
another story.
But yeah, that's a bigger topic on social issues that is a sports podcast. I think if he gets traded, his best place to land is somewhere where young talent, a lot of draft picks, and the team that he gets on would start winning immediately.
Pittsburgh.
Who am I talking about? Exactly. Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yep.
Brian Flores wanted him the entire
Pittsburgh,
time.
100%.
Mike Tomlin is proven to handle egos, not only egos, but side stories going on into the season. At a time juggling the conflict between Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell,
Mhm.
and Ben Roethlisberger.
Look what Ben did when he was there,
Like-
bro. And you know what I'm talking
Exactly.
Could you imagine a
that monster-
dynamic quarterback with those receivers?
about. Yeah.
That running back?
Oh man.
You kidding me?
And
Oh
Tomlin.
man. It's over.
You think
It's an AFC championship. Give him.
Chase Pool? Juju?
Yeah.
I
Najee Harris?
yeah, Juju. I don't know if Juju will be there next year.
Mm,
Something tells me Juju's done in Pittsburgh.
yeah, I think he's out.
He'll probably end up somewhere where he can
They needed. They
do his
just they,
TikTok dances.
they need a tight end, man. Eric Ebron was not it for them this year.
Nah.
No,
No,
not
but
at
yeah,
all.
that
They
would
need
be-
they
that
need to
would be
get
the
some
best
help.
fit, but I just that whole situation, man. I don't know. We've never really seen anything like it in the NFL before, and this guy was like legitimately entering what I think was the prime of his career because. You know, in the NFL, in my opinion, it's the biggest team sport in the entire world because all 11 guys are engaged all at once on the same play. But he was genuinely like the one guy where you would look at it and you would think, it's like, for me, it's like him and Russ that could turn water into wine in terms of like the plays broken down. You know, you got 3 linemen on your ass and you can make something happen, like pull something out of a hat. And for me, there's no one like him or Russ in the NFL who can do that better than those two guys.
You're excluding Justin Fields.
And yeah, purposefully
It's
And,
a little biased there.
for a reason. And I don't know. I just think that it's a shame that it happened the way it happened. I honestly don't think that we'll see him play next year again. I think he'll just fizzle out. I
Really?
do. Yeah, I honestly
No.
don't know. Because you have such a talent sitting on your bench though for a year. Like that's crazy. And all we hear from the his legal troubles is that it's not anywhere close to being resolved. And if that's true, that's insane. After a year, and it's nowhere close to being resolved. You have that many allegations. You know, like
I think
not
I
even
think a
to get into
suspension
that,
is
but it's just crazy.
Yeah, I think a suspension is probably in his future. Maybe 6 game suspension. Something, whatever team that might end up trading for him needs to be prepared for that suspension, and it might affect the compensation package that the Texans do receive for
That's the
Deshaun.
thing, though, is that if
And
the NFL is also making it worse for him because if he's gonna get suspended, okay, announce it, do it now, and let teams know what they're getting into. I think the biggest reason why teams aren't offering what the Texans want is because they don't know what they're getting into. They really don't
Yeah.
know. I mean, the lawyers, his personal lawyers, aren't going to talk to NFL teams. He's been advised by his lawyers not to talk to anyone about the situation. So all they hear is what we hear, pretty much. I mean, they might have their inside sources, but no one really knows what's going on with that. And if the NFL keeps delaying the decision of or the findings of their private investigation, it's just worse for him because no one knows what they're getting themselves into. Because if you trade a first round pick for him and a big piece for him, and then find out, oh, he's gone for half the, and you just gave away so much for half a season. Like, can you afford that? Not a lot of teams can.
No, it's definitely a tough spot. I don't know if any team can.
That's what I'm saying.
yeah,
I don't know. I don't want to
that's
speculate on
a tough
legal
sell.
trouble. I'm not a legal
That's what I'm
expert,
saying. I'm
nor
trying to
am
stay
I.
away from
Yeah,
that.
Nor
neither
am I
am I.
informed enough to make any comment about it. Just strictly on the football and his status within the team. Yeah, I don't see a world where he comes back to that team and becomes a starting quarterback, even with the addition of Lovie Smith.
Yeah.
Maybe
I
trying to smooth
think
conversations over. I just don't see it happening. Just
think
from a
Texans fans can
PR
dream.
standpoint, it's just going to be a nightmare. And I don't feel like a team that's in a rebuilding phase can afford to have their narrative being shifted from back and forth. They just need to focus on themselves and just try and recoup whatever draft capital they can get for him and just hope for the best.
Yeah.
Now, you know what's not a realistic possibility, but what you just described would be perfect for them. Just to close out this segment, the Cowboys. Something to think about. The salaries match up. If you throw Amari and Dak, maybe throw a second rounder in there.
Well, I've always said
I'm
that.
not gonna say that's the
I've
worst
always said
package
this.
we could receive.
I've always said this. Dak was never drafted to be the starting quarterback of the Cowboys. He was always drafted to be a career backup, and just happened to be thrusted into the spotlight. Yeah, but Tom is that he's literally the 1 in a million guy who can do it.
Russ isn't drafted to be
I
like
think-
that.
No, that's not true because Russ was on the second year.
Yeah, but he was taken later. He wasn't that guy. He wasn't taken to be like the man. Just when people were trying to take it seriously, guys, you go and you do that.
I'm just saying. I never.
You're not listening.
I never
He's
thought
a biased
that,
Bears
I never
fan.
thought Dak was that guy,
No,
and I still don't think he's that guy.
I
Yeah.
think he's that corner of all time, and I'll die on this hill. I really will.
Yeah.
Well, I used
Deshaun
to be.
the Cowboys.
I used
Cowboys
to be a
don't lose
Trubisky
again.
guy, and here we
That's
are.
all I'm gonna say.
Nah, I'm sticking with Dak, man.
Yeah, but all right, guys. Thanks for joining us for the podcast today. We ran a little bit over today, but we're trying to get back into it. We will hopefully be streaming weekly. Feel free to leave a comment down below. Let us know any ideas, segments, or even if you want to hop on chat with us, let us know and we can plan around that.
Sure.
This is CV signing off.
Yeah, later, guys. See you in the next one. Thanks for listening.
Hey, thanks for listening.